Hello students, today we will be looking into sixth experiment of mobile application development lab where we have to create XML and JSON files with the following details: city name, latitude, longitude, temperature and humidity. And when we click on that XML button or JSON data button, it has to display respective information extracted from either XML or JSON files respectively. So to create this, we require two activities, one to display the buttons and the next one to display the information after clicking the button. So let's look into the Android project. Android Studio, create new project, select empty activity. Next, give the project name XML and JSON. Finish. While loading students, before we start with our project, we have to input or we have to put in JSON and XML files to our Android Studio project. So for that, I already have the data here. So this is JSON file. This is XML file. So I'll just open these two files. So this is our JSON file. I'll just copy this data, and how to put it in our Android Studio is whenever we have extra data that has to be added and extracted information from that, we will be going with assets folder. So right click on the app, go to new, here select folder and assets folder, which is already there. I'll just click there and the target source set will be main itself. Click finish. So once we have done that, you can see there is a assets folder added. Now we should add that JSON file here. So I will right click, new file. You can either copy paste the file directly, or this is also another way to do. I will give the name as input. So I will give input.json. Enter. So it will create empty JSON file. So whatever I have copied there, I will paste it here. So this creates our JSON file, and similarly, we will do it for XML file also. So this is our XML document. I will open this. Copy the information. Similar way, right click the asset folder, new file, give the name. You can give same name, input. Since it is XML, we have to use extension XML and press enter. Paste the data here. So this is our JSON file. This is our XML file. So after including this as a part of our application, now we can go with the design part. I will close these two files. And first UI design, as we have already seen, it should have a heading, parsing XML and JSON data. So I will go with that. There is already by default one text view. So I will use that itself for our heading. Go to attributes, change the name of it. Parsing XML and JSON data. If you want, you can change color. Increase the font size. And you can also bold it. So once we have done with that, we have to create two buttons. So you use palette, click on common button, drag it to the activity area, and add the constraints with respect to parent. So once that has been done, I'll place it there. Our heading for that should be parse XML data. So since that is selected, I will scroll down. Instead of button, I will tell parse XML data. And I will copy the same button and Control C and Control V I will do, so that I have a same button replicated, and I will pull the copied button down because I need one more button for JSON data. I'll place it, and using that I will just change its name here. Instead of XML, I just have to type here JSON data. So once this has been done, one extra thing that we have to do here is we have to change the IDs of JSON and XML data buttons, so that when we are mapping in our Java code, it is rightly mapped. So I will click on split here. When I select this XML data, I will write here button underscore XML, and I will write here, instead of button 2, button underscore JSON. So this completes our UI design with respect to first activity, that is this much. So next, before going to Java code, now we will look into this parsing XML and JSON data, this activity. So how to do with that is here. Just go with design, click on this project so that you have the folders displayed here. Right click on app, go to new, there go to activity, in that select empty activity. Instead of that, I can give view activity because we are seeing the data in this. So I will give the name as view activity. Click finish, so that we have two other files created, one with XML and another with Java. So we have created another activity that is required for our application. So go with that UI design. So activity main is our first activity, and second one is our second activity, that is this one. So parsing XML and JSON data is a text view. This is also text view. JSON is also text view, and this finally, this itself also is a text view. So we should have finally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 text views. So that we have to put it here. I'll minimize this. go to palette, text view, drag and drop it here and constrain it to the activity area, that is parent. Okay, that heading is also parsing XML and JSON data. I'll just enter that. JSON data. If you want, you can change the color. And before that, it has to get selected. Increase the font size. Bold, apply. Okay, once that has been done, I want 4 more text views. So I'll just copy the same, Control C and Control V. I'll just drag it down. I will change only the attributes of it. So what are the attributes? If you want, you can change the color of it or you can leave it. Since it is subheading, let me change the color also. And font size, it is fine. And our heading should be XML data. So that I will change it here. XML data. This I will put it here. And again, I will copy the same and paste it. I'll push this towards right for JSON one more. Okay, so this XML data should become JSON. JSON data. Now, before I have, if I just click on XML, only XML data should be displayed. If I click on JSON button, only JSON data should be displayed. So for that, what I will do, I will copy this both text views and paste it again. Let me check if it is pasted. You can check here. So it is not pasted. So what I will do, I will use this for selection, use this component tree, copy, previously go here, right click, paste. So you have 2 more text views created. I will push this down. Okay. So why I'm writing here is whenever that data is there, this is replaced with the information and this depends JSON data itself. When JSON button is clicked, this JSON data is replaced with actual data that is extracted and XML data is retained as it is. So just to replace that data, I'm writing here as a reference XML data and JSON data. So this completes our UI design for our second activity that is in this application. So this part is also completed. So after this, we will be writing Java code for main activity.java. For that, where we will be using activity main. So if I look into this design, text view need not get changed. When I click XML data button, there should be some action taking place, or JSON data, some action to be taken place. So those two buttons I need as a reference here. So I will be creating objects of button for those two. So using that button, so I will call button XML and button JSON. Once created with those two objects, we have to link with respect to those two buttons. So after this, inside on create method, bxml is equal to, that is button, call find view by method, for which ID are we referring to, that is r dot id dot, that is button XML. Enter. Next, since it is a button, we will also call set on click listener for this. bxml dot set on click listener of this. Similarly, we will repeat this for bjson also. bjson is equal to button, call find view by ID with respect to r dot id dot, which we had given button JSON, click enter and semicolon. And since this is also a button, we will call set on click listener, set on click listener of this. Since it throws an error, just single click on this, use the second suggestion and click OK, so that it creates an interface for set on click listener, and also it will call on click method, where we will be writing the code for passing either JSON data or XML data. So first we have to check that which button is selected. So for that we will be going with if condition. If v dot equals button XML, or let me call it as button JSON, what I should do is I have to shift to this activity where our second JSON data I have created text view, right? That should be replaced with this whole data, that is city name, latitude, longitude, temperature, humidity. So for that, what I should do is, so if our button is equal to, that is if v dot equals to JSON, that object. So what we have to do is we have to send the data to another activity where the screen is getting changed. Whenever we have to communicate between the activities, we have to use intents. So always intents will help us to communicate between two activities where it is done in 3 steps at the sending part. So the first step is create the intent object. Second one, put data or extras to the intent. And the third one is you have to start the activity from the sender side. So this 3 things we will be doing as a part of this code. So how to create the intent object is use intent class. I will go to presentation mode. Space create object, which is equal to new intent. So it takes two parameters from where to where it has to switch the activity. So we have to tell from this to, we have to go to view activity screen. That is the activity that we have created. So I will write that view activity. This was the activity that we have created. Dot extend with that class. So we have created the intent object. We have to put data or extras. We use intent dot, we call put extra method. When we have to use put extra is whenever we have more than one data piece to be sent to another activity. Here we are telling the mode, that is the name and the value of the button selected. So the name you can give anything, which I'm giving it as mode. You need not type that name, it will automatically get added. And value, why? Because we have to select any one out of either JSON or XML, just to mention that we have added value to it. And once we have added put extra method, next we have to call start activity method with respect to that. So start activity with respect to that object. This completes with respect to the BJSON, that is when JSON button is clicked. The same thing we have to do it for XML data. So if this is, so this if completes here, so press enter. I'm also checking else if v dot equals that button, whichever is selected is BXML. So what should I do? The same three things that I'm doing here, that is creating intent object, putting the data, that is extra put extra call that put extra method, and start activity. So I will copy those 3 lines and paste it here. So what is the change that we are supposed to do is the same. See, when we are shifting the screen, it is the same screen that we are shifting. So that line also will not change. The first line is also same. We have to change to view activity dot class itself, and the put extra, the name also is mode, but the value that I select is 2, so that I can have a reference. If whatever if I've received is 2, I can parse that as a XML data and start activity. So this completes our Java part of first activity, that is main activity dot Java.